Hey, Lauren.
Hey, Ryan.
We got a special episode today for the audience, huh?
Yes, we do.
Do you want to tell our audience what we're doing here today?
Yes. So about 2 months ago, we had the really fortunate opportunity to sit down with two local filmmakers. So if you've been listening to this podcast for a while, you know how much we love film, how passionate we are about all aspects of filmmaking. But something we don't often talk about is independent filmmaking. And, where we live in the Lehigh Valley, there's a really wonderful local filmmaking culture. And we had felt very passionately about wanting to talk to two artists who are out there making their passion projects, creating their stories from the ground up, finding a crew that would be willing to do it with them. And we had the very fortunate opportunity to get to do that.
We did. So this is obviously, as How Could You Podcast, our first interview episode. So we figured what better way to do it than find two filmmakers that we already know and have a good relationship with and are working with. So you'll hear these two filmmakers today, Andrew McDonald and Jesse Calavoda.
So two local filmmakers who we happen to be very good friends with. We, in fact, met them at the movie theater you often hear us talking about where all of our great relationships started.
Yeah, Jesse was a projectionist there, and with his good friendship with Andrew would come in a lot, so that's how we got to meet them.
Yes, and they are co-directing a project right now called Shiver. They're actually in the post-production phase. We were actually lucky enough to get to be involved in the production of the film. Ryan as line producer,
and you as costume designer, production designer. They talk about that later. You kind of started to get a lot of hats at some point.
Mainly because I was very eager and very caffeinated and wanted to do more because it's such an exciting project. It's going to be coming out soon. You're going to hear us talk a lot about that, but we really wanted to take this opportunity to highlight local filmmakers. We're really excited to have gotten to be a part of this project and can't think of a better way to do our first interview episode than people who we know have been honing their craft for years.
Yeah, the whole production was great. I mean, it really showed, these are two at the top, for our production company, but it took a whole village to make that movie. Yeah. And I know they are so appreciative of everybody that worked on it. It was great to get to talk to them. And this was, we did this 2 months ago. We did this interview. It happened to be right after we had wrapped production. So this was at the end of April when we got to sit down and talk to them.
Yes. And if you look at the notes for our podcast, you're going to see links to some of their previous projects, including Exile, which you're going to hear us talk about a lot during the episode. And we will be voraciously updating you on social media when Shiver is out, when the premiere is coming, so that way you can support these filmmakers. And honestly, I cannot wait to see it come together because getting to see the process in production was incredible, and I can't wait to see how it gets edited together.
And it was a ton of fun to get to sit down with these two and talk about it, talk about all the, the difficulties of it, all the positives from it. It was a really, really rewarding experience, and hopefully you as an audience enjoy this as much as we got to do in it, so maybe we can bring you more interviews in the future.
Yes, and we did something special for this episode. So we recorded at Steel Pixel Studios, which is located in Bethlehem, Pennsylvania. They are a digital marketing studio specializing in photography, videography, podcasting, graphic design, social media. Really incredible experience there. Our sound mixer Ben was, I think understood that we were doing this for the first time. Yeah. Was very patient with us. So cannot recommend that enough. We'll be tagging them in all of our posts for this episode as well. So if you are in need of any of those services or just want to support a local growing business, consider checking them out.
Yeah, they were a lot of fun to work with, and we had gotten recommended to them by a friend of ours, Anne Marino, who has a great podcast herself called Let's Get Spiritual.
And I will link Anne's podcast in our stories so you can check that out. It's about spirituality, really affirming and encouraging, really supportive place to land if you're looking for that in your podcast needs. So definitely check that out.
Yeah, we highly recommend it for sure.
But without further ado, let's get to the episode. Welcome to the How Could You Podcast. I'm Lauren Tocci.
And I'm Ryan Tocci. Let's try this again.
You always do that at the beginning of our episodes, say a quote from the film that we're going to be talking about, but it slaps a little differently when the filmmakers are in the room with us.
Very true. I'm a little intimidated trying to quote their words.
I really hoped actually one of them was going to jump in and give you wild direction about what you were doing wrong.
That would have been good.
Well, welcome, audience. As you can already tell, this is a very, very special episode where we are going to be interviewing two amazing local filmmakers. We are so excited to get to do this and to bring this amazing opportunity to all of you. We're just ecstatic. And I get to say today, we are 4 people that met at a movie theater and never quite laughed. And I'm so happy to introduce her. Actually, I'm going to ask my guests, would you mind introducing yourselves to our audience?
My name is Jesse Kalavoda.
Jesse, you want to tell us what you do, a little bit about yourself?
Oh, yes. I would love to do that, Lauren and Ryan.
For the audience, we all know each other, so we've got a good rapport here.
So I work in human services, where we help people with intellectual disabilities and mental health. And when I say we, I mean my co-partner, my co-director, the love of my life, Andrew.
I'm Andrew Sterling MacDonald. Jesse and I have been working on film projects together for more than 20 years now. Our first feature we made after dropping out of college in 2002, I think.
It was maybe a questionable decision, but we did it. We dropped out.
Unless Jesse's parents are listening, in which case he didn't drop out of college until 2004.
And I didn't use any of that money to make the movie.
That's a very Kevin Smith story right there.
What I appreciate is that we've already had secret revelations, which I love on any episode, and really you can just think of that work as just building to this most epic moment in episodes. So thank you for being here.
Yeah, thank you guys so much for doing this with us. Most of our time when we start our show, if you guys have listened, and hopefully you have, we do a Tossi's Takes. And so we're going to be off the hook this week, and we're going to actually pitch it to you guys. So our Tossi's Takes is generally a recommendation that you have, maybe a movie, a book, something, a YouTube video, some good story some guy on the street told you. So I want to pitch it to you guys. Give us some good Tossi's Takes for our audience.
Severance.
Oh, you son of a bitch. we tend to watch the exact same things at the exact same moment.
He called it.
Severance,
he called it. So you're going to have to give another one. Andrew, can you elaborate on Severance?
So everything, I'm sure that there are exceptions to this, but so far everything I've watched on Apple Plus has been top notch. I got Apple Plus to watch Servant and Mythic Quest, and then I went on to watch Ted Lasso and a bunch of other stuff. And the most recent one we watched all the way through was Severance, and it's absolutely spectacular. The cast is fantastic. It's some of the best performance. I'd say it's one of my favorite John Turturro performances I've ever seen. It has a bunch of actors who don't get a ton of screen time getting much bigger roles, which has been awesome. The score, so I am our music guy, so I like to listen to scores. And the last 2 years or so has seen a kind of renaissance in film scores or music scores for television programs, with stuff like Why the Last Man and what were some of the other ones we talked about?
I don't know. Why the Last Man was a good one, though.
Oh, Loki had an amazing score.
Yeah, Loki was spectacular.
Severance was the latest of these, where the score for Severance was just...
And I think, to point out, I think they're all female composers. I actually think they are. I know Why the Last Man and Loki are, which always excites us.
Yeah. Which is, an area that is still very much male-dominated in features. So, yeah, it has been cool getting cool scores, and Severance has one of these cool scores and a sort of quirky story. If you've ever seen the older comedy Better Off Ted, it's like a much darker, more serious version of Better Off Ted.
Okay.
Which is already a pretty dark comedy, but go watch Severance.
That's a great recommendation, and totally agree with you about Apple Plus. We've talked about it on the show a bunch, and we've
rarely a bad one.
And I think Servant was one of our Tossi's Takes one week, and everything. So completely agree with you, and so that's a awesome recommendation.
Apple Plus, keep it up. You're my favorite thing about Apple.
And also, R.I.P. to Why the Last Man.
Yeah.
Gone too quickly.
It was good. It was good.
Yes.
I know this is a movie podcast.
No, we talk TV show, and we will acknowledge the golden age of television that we're living in right now, as much as it pains us to do so.
It's very much heavily influenced by film.
Right.
So.
Station 11 was the other one I was thinking of with the great score, apart from that one remix of Ave Maria that they played 1,000 times. But other than that, the score was amazing.
Awesome. Yeah, Station 11, good stuff.
See, you're good here, Andrew, because our music knowledge, not great. We love a great score, but so we're glad to have you on for that part of it, especially.
What are your favorite film scores, Ryan and Lauren?
This is Tocci takes. What are you doing, Andrew?
I really
leave the room, Andrew.
I really like the innovation of what we see Trent Reznor doing when partnered with David Fincher. Like, I think, I'm sorry, now I'm pulling Fincher, so you're probably going to be mad that you didn't get to say that. I love how that sounds. And I think the thing that I love about film score is it does exactly what it's supposed to do. It's completely mood setting, but it also disappears. So in some ways, not to use too big of a pun, but it's like the unsung hero of the film. And we talk so much in film criticism about why score is so important, but I know it's a weakness for me being able to name composers as fluidly as you both would be able to do.
Agreed.
Do you want to give it Tossi's takes, or you want to throw it to Jesse?
No, I'm going to throw it to Jesse.
Yeah. Jesse,
all right.
You can't use Severance.
I can't use Severance. It really hurt me. And then I remembered Our Flag Means Death. And then I remember that is actually the last show that Andrew and I watched together, and it was spectacular.
I actually don't know this one at all.
Really?
I don't even know it by
is
name.
Taika Waititi.
Oh,
Yes.
now I know which one you're
Yes.
talking about. Okay, great.
He's actually in it.
And
That actually might be a spoiler right there. Might be. They
okay.
kind of play it off. They kind of play it off as a twist.
The show does not really pick up steam until he joins the cast full
Yes,
time
the first
anyway.
three, it's very silly, very over the top, and then it takes a genre turn. It is very genuine, meaningful television. It is beautiful.
Still
You will love
absolutely
it.
a comedy.
Absolutely a comedy, yeah. I think you guys would actually really, really like it.
I think we have to watch it. I was actually reading a lot about the costume design for the film, and it's already something that's becoming like the hot item at the upcoming like conventions, like for cosplay season. Like this tends to be the time of year where conventions are picking up steam, and with a lot of them being back full and in person again, that's something that people are like really marking. I was reading a lot about the costume design and how like integral it is, I guess, to the show,
Yeah,
or
the
at least to the mood
costumes
setting of the show.
It's, so the main character, who is Stede Bonnet, who's actually a historical figure. The show actually really follows a lot of the actual history very closely,
nice.
more so than I'd realized when I was first watching it. But yeah, he's playing a gentleman pirate, so he's always wearing these very much over-the-top outfits. That, yeah.
Right on. Well, those are great Tossi's takes.
Excellent recommendations for our audience.
Yeah, and I know, like, definitively we're going to go home, and we'll be starting one of those.
Absolutely.
Because
yeah, Severance probably before the other one. But
I do agree with that.
yeah,
Yeah,
because that one
that's
we had
great
been talking
from beginning
about
to
recently.
end. Our Flag Me, Flag
And
Means
I heard
Death
that
has a little
the
bit.
Severance payoff at the end is amazing. So, excited for that.
That's also Tossi teased right there. But so obviously we invited you here because you are both local filmmakers. You have been working together for years. And we want to talk to you not only about the current project that you were working on that you just wrapped filming on, but we really want to start by asking you about filmmaking and your personal filmmaking history. So right off the bat, and it's going to feel like a heavy question, but of all of the modes of storytelling, of all of the plethora of ways to communicate experience or to express the things that you want to, why was filmmaking the thing you chose?
My goodness. That's a
I
good
did it 'cause
question.
Jesse was doing it.
It's a great reason.
All right, so I actually started in theater. That was before I started working with Jesse. I did work in theater with acting and writing and some composing. And then Jesse and I met in kindergarten in the 80s. And yeah, it was.
I know. It just makes it sound really old.
It was kindergarten
I was
in the
gonna
80s.
say, everybody's been to kindergarten, but I guess, when you
But
throw
not
in the 80s.
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm the oldest one here, so
My apologies.
all you kids.
We were not friends in kindergarten. Bitter rivals.
We were.
Can you elaborate on that, because I like this story.
I was incredibly jealous of Jesse's Teddy Ruxpin.
Who wouldn't be?
Yeah, I mean, you may laugh, but that was,
And my treehouse.
5-year-old Andrew and Jesse's trio.
Yeah, my treehouse.
You had a treehouse?
I was there. Had 2 stories.
Oh,
The
I now
second
hate you.
story, I would purposely call him over to my house, go on the second floor, hold my Teddy Ruxpin out, and dangle it from above, smiling. And I pulled the ladder up.
So
How are
nothing
you
has
guys
changed.
even friends now?
None of this is true, but almost kind of. He did come over like on a class trip because we did some walkathon at my family's house, and
It was a hopathon.
yeah.
I'm sorry. Say that again for the audience.
It was a hopathon.
A hopathon.
To raise money for muscular dystrophy.
Aww.
I still have the sticker. It's a pink
Yes,
rabbit.
we went to a private school, so we hopped.
Nothing wrong with hopping. Hop away. That's what I say.
So really, it was about this Teddy Ruxpin, though. That's where the bitter feud began.
I don't think I ever knew anybody with a Teddy. Like, it was like...
Now you know someone.
Yeah,
who has a Teddy
I know.
Ruxpin.
I
What a
mean,
good thing to have.
I didn't know until I heard him
Teddy
saying
Ruxpin?
he wanted it.
And you're like, I must have this thing that he
Do you
desires.
still have the tapes? Do you still have the Teddy Ruxpin?
I do not.
Ah, disappointing.
It would be amazing if I did. I did think about buying it for him for Christmas one year,
That would've
because
been
they do have like the they did like a redo of it or something. Yeah.
So after kindergarten, we went our separate ways, and I kind of went down a theater path. Jesse started working on filmmaking projects with some of his friends, and then we met again in senior year of high school. Throughout the year, we weren't enemies or whatever, but we didn't hang out too much until our prom, which Jesse and I both worked instead of attending, me doing music and Jesse doing videography for it.
So I think the reason I chose that art form, and I think it comes down to a very specific moment. I think it was Steven Spielberg. I
right
think
on.
When I watched E.T., and I remember the exact moment when I was a kid, is the moment, and it was John Williams, actually, I think, when it comes down to it, the mix of two of them, but the moment of the music, them taking off the bikes, and the music hitting, and seeing the magic of that moment where you think they're not going to be able to get away. And then they get away, and the music fluctuates, and then it continues on with them going in front of the moon. And it's just like, I just remember feeling that. And I think any art form that could be combined with music and visuals and acting, and if you can do that in such a great way, it's just so meaningful and beautiful. And well, that's what I wanted to do. I just knew that's what I wanted to do.
That's such a wonderful origin point to why you love film. And I don't think there's a person who'd be listening to this that doesn't know that exact moment. Like that thing, that swell, that feeling of freedom and triumph and fear.
I also just made that up. No, I'm kidding. No, I'm kidding.
Jesse, please just let me think that that's
no,
true.
that is actually true. It is true.
Yeah, filmmaking also has a unique collaborative process. There are other art forms with a collaborative process, like theater, or playing music together as a group, but filmmaking has that music thing of you're doing something and you're creating a moment in time that's going to be repeated over and over again, but it will be that indelible mark, but you're getting to do it visually, which you don't get with music. So it's kind of, it gives you the collaborative process that you have with theater and the visual media that you can't get with music.
No, I love how you phrase that moment in time. That's such a beautiful way of, what film is able to capture, whatever that is. It's the thing. It's quite literally the capturing of that.
What is your motivation, to do these projects?
Personally, I think one of the things about film that exists almost all across the board is money. You know what I mean? It's all about money. It's all about business. It's something that excites me about film specifically, and what motivates me, I think, is that we're doing this with no money. Okay. And seeing a group of people, especially this project we just did, seeing a group of people come into a project and be so passionate and excited and put as much effort into a story that we wrote, that to me is the reason why I want to continue making films and why I get excited to make films.
That said, investors, if you want to give us money,
we would take it, but we wouldn't be as passionate about it.
Right.
But it's interesting you bring this up, because I know this is something that, I was thinking of ever present when working on your latest project is so the nature of independent filmmaking is that there's not a studio who's waving a magic wand or giving you a bucket of cash and saying, here, go make your art. So what are the struggles or difficulties, or what is that experience like? I mean, you're talking about it from, there's almost like a charge that you get from it, but what are the challenges of that as well?
There's so many challenges. I mean, obviously personal life, full-time job, those are the obvious. And having to balance all those things and then put as much effort into this thing that you're not getting paid for as you are these other two things, your family and your full-time job, and not giving any less to any of those three.
I agree. I think that the biggest challenges that we have faced over the years and I suppose it's not so much a specific challenge, but part of the enjoyment for us has been cultivating a team of dedicated, creative people who are able to work together as a team. And we've kind of refined that team over the years, bringing new people in and working with them over time and trying to help everyone have their vision be added to the project. It's definitely a thing that I enjoy doing specifically.
Can you guys actually elaborate on that? Like, explain to us, how do you, because you are obviously asking for a lot of volunteer, to help you guys with this. How do you decide and form your team? How do you guys get there? How do you put it together? Past projects and even, your most recent project?
Well, the past one was, what we started with us just like meeting in college again. I don't know if we got to that part of the story, but we met in college again, and I was majoring in theater purposely so I can understand acting, so I can do better at understand better with behind the camera and in front of the camera. And I think
majoring in business, which was a mistake.
And so essentially what we did is we made really good friends with people in this theater community at Northampton Community College, and we brought them just brought them with us because they were as excited to just do whatever. So that's kind of how, like a light bulb moment of like, just find people that are passionate and excited to do things and not go, give me money. You know what I mean? And
Jesse's parents bought him some filmmaking equipment that they thought was college tuition. And
I'm all about that. Like, I mean, you know what? Use the money on, what motivates you, what's passionate to you. Yes. I mean, they may feel
not a college slandering podcast. Andrew.
No, I don't. I think the teacher to the right of me will not.
I say that to my students all the time. Like, you have to do what you love because you're going to be doing it for a long time, and you'll probably have some. Jesse, you already brought this up. You're balancing your 9 to 5 with the thing that's really fueling your passions. And I think everyone sitting at this table, and hopefully everyone listening, would feel very similarly. Like, you have to take those risks because, there have been so many wonderful projects that have come out of that risk of you buying that equipment.
Yep, absolutely.
Can you guys kind of go into a little bit about your, filmography, I guess you could say, or the projects that you've worked on?
Why don't you talk about Perfection a little bit, Jesse?
Okay, so this continues on with the story as us gathering people from the theater.
Apparently, all of our stories are chronological, so
yeah,
I like it. I feel like I'm going on a journey.
You are. So we gathered everybody, pretty much from there, and then. We decided we're dropping out of college and we took the entire summer with what money we had with this group of people to make a feature length, way too long of a movie. It was like 2 hours and 20 minutes, but it was really good. And I don't know.
It was a really good process.
It was a good process. The movie was questionable. The whole process. There was great cinematography,
we
great
could
music.
probably edit a good 45-minute movie out of the footage now, I think.
Yeah. But yes, that circles back to your other question, which is that it kind of taught us about how to gather a group of people. Like today, we find people who are passionate about the art or film, and then we figure out what they're good at.
And even back then, you can find those people who have, some kind of material wealth or something to offer, and are willing to take a risk and let, young artists work with it. Jesse's family had a friend who was an architect who had 2 finished homes that were furnished, that were being used for,
and they were mansions, so we kind of had to change the story a little bit, which was awesome for us.
But he let us film in those 2 houses all summer, which we had effectively sound stages for our film, which was an incredible thing to have.
I'm glad you said that he let you guys do that. So
yes, you were fully
edit
expecting.
this out.
Yeah, fully.
Thank you, Frank Alexander.
Yeah.
I'm quite intrigued by the fact that you guys made a 2 hour, because now having seen, spoiler that we were, I think we've talked about on the show that we helped out with your last film, the short film, and seeing how much goes into that, the fact that you guys were able to make a full length. It's not even just a full length, but a 2 hour and 20-minute film.
Like, I always did it when I was young. Like, I'd say, like, a lot of filmmakers have the same story. 12, get my dad's camera, me and my friend Tim, like, he was the DP, I was the director, and we'd both act in it. So I knew what I was doing, but I didn't know the process of, I knew how to hit the record button and yell action. But the process, we were just winging it. And we took the entire summer to film it almost every day. Like, and I think that's where we learned most of our lessons with what we do today, knowing how prepared we need to be so we don't need that 3 months to film. You know what I mean? Granted, we don't film.
And we were filming like 15 or 16 hours a day, or at least working 15 or 16 hours a day.
Well,
we'd maybe film 8 hours, and then we'd spend 8 hours doing other, rehearsing and, I don't know, chatting in a diner until 4 in.the morning. Those things that you can do when
or
you're
watching
19,
the
you
best
can't do when you're 40.
The best story, actually, not even a story, but I remember working really late, having a really stressful shoot with everybody, and most of them aren't, but this one particularly was. And then we went to Carmack to watch a really late movie, like 11 p.m., and it was Insomnia. And we all, the whole cast and crew went in and watched it, and it just felt like we were in some like limbo. Like, why did we pick this movie? And all of us were slowly falling asleep, but it was a good movie. Good enough.
Yeah, sleep deprived and watching Insomnia and how trippy Pacino's character starts to get towards the back end of that.
Yeah.
There's an irony in that that's almost like too delicious for words.
I remember, spoilers for Insomnia, a little late, but, I remember the moment, when he dies and his eyes finally close and just being like, oh, I want that.
Yeah, right, yeah. 100% true. We all were like, oh, that seems really nice right now. For some reason, but we're like... But we forced our way.
We can talk about that too, guys.
But the weird thing is like you say that, and my reaction to it is just like, oh man, what a magical time though, because I'm just thinking about you, bumming around at the theater like late at night or hanging out in a diner, after creating your art, and what it. I think my curiosity then is like, so those are long days and long hours, and you're still committing to doing this thing despite all of those seemingly very sleepless nights or insomnia nights, if you will. So is there a part of filmmaking that like you dread having to do, or that is really hard, or do you just love everything about it?
Pre-production. Do not like pre-production. I just want to get into it. I want to do it, but I know pre-production needs to be done right, and it's probably one of the most important parts of making movies. But yeah, pre-production.
Is it like all of the organizational stuff that goes with it?
I force myself to be somebody I'm not, and I think I do it well enough now. But to organize, prepare, meetings, schedule, all that stuff. That stuff I dread, but I think I do it well enough now to get it done.
Meetings and schedules are not things that either Jesse or myself excel at. Like, the very early pre-production, like coming up with ideas for what the project is.
That's good.
We enjoy that.
That's satisfying.
Sort of raw, seminal, creative stuff. But then when it gets into the nuts and bolts of, okay, we need to nail down a location and sign contracts and make sure that everybody's, where they need to be, when they need to be, and make sure we're not missing anything, that can definitely be a chore. But you have to do it. You have to do it right, or you will pay the consequences later.
Well, I can understand that. I mean, you guys are both extremely creative minds, so obviously you just want to get right into the passion aspect of that. The business end has to just be the least fun.
So with that, I have a feeling, in a sense, like from what I'm hearing, there's a lot of like the filmmaking process and like the being on set. Is that like kind of the part you love the most? Is that like the magic portion, like getting to actually create the thing? Or is it that like when it's in its infancy, like when you're just coming up with those first like germs of the ideas?
I think we're actually on the set doing it. Like that's my happy place.
Although I think both of us, but certainly for myself, I also have moments in post-production that are super rewarding and exciting when you can see all of the work, both the fun work and the tedious work, when you get to see the results of that all come together and everything lines up and you have that one moment in editing that everything comes together perfectly. That is also very exciting. But yes, I agree. The part that gives me the most energy and excitement is while we are there on set filming.
Can you explain also a little bit, you're talking about the pre-production and the writing process as part of that. Can you guys go into a little bit about how you know this is a project we want to kind of start with? Like you guys did the short film Exile, which was 2 parts, right? Or let's at least go to the beginning of Exile.
Yeah.
Can you talk a little bit about developing that script?
Oh boy! All right, so Exile,
I don't know what the oh boy was for. I'm excited.
Because remember, Exile started as a small piece of a larger project called The Righteous.
Yes.
We came up with a whole zombie apocalypse kind of epic story that followed 3 groups of people. There was like a remnants of the military branch and a cult somehow connected.
The Zealots. I remember all this, yes.
To
I
the
want to point out
zombies.
this was before the height of like zombies in movies. I remember we read the Walking Dead comic book and we're like, we need to jump on this. And then while we were making Exile, the Walking Dead came out. And I was like, no. Not that we were expecting any success. It just felt like
The comic or the show?
The show.
well, yeah,
Gotcha.
the show.
The
Yeah,
show,
but the
which is
comic
still
is what
on, just for the
inspired.
record.
Yes, yes.
All right,
In-
so
Is it though?
is it now?
we came up with a decent treatment and like the beginnings of a series Bible, which was pretty good, but we realized it was just too ambitious and we would not be able to do this whole project. So we decided to narrow it down, pick one of the groups, take their story, and we decided the medium we wanted to use was web series. At the time, that was very new. There had been a handful of examples. There had been like The Guild that Felicia did.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
And a few really short ones like Dr. Horrible's sing-along blog. There was a steampunk show called Reese out of Canada, and just a handful of web series. So we decided, let's throw our hats in the ring.
And I think a big part of the decision not to do the movie or the bigger TV show, whatever we were going back and forth was came down to money. And one of our things, that pieces of logic that we usually use when we're coming up with ideas is like, what's the best thing we can make with $0?
Right.
So let's go. We took that idea, and then we scaled it back, and then tried to bring it up a little bit more from there to match like a higher quality content in our mind, at least.
One of the
That's
stories took place mostly in an old theater, and we knew we had access to a theater where we could film, so we went with that one. So we filmed the first arc, the first season of Exile, all at once, kind of as if it were short, and then we divided it up into 3 or 4 parts in post. And then there was enough interest that we decided to do a second arc of it, a second season. We called it Arcs because we wanted to sound like we were a very, a new medium.
Pretentious.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But
That's Andrew's idea, by the way.
the second one, I think, was a significant increase in quality. We had really good feedback on the first one. We had, as Jesse said, it came out right at the same time that the Walking Dead TV show was coming out. And I remember there were reviews that were really excited. We had our lead actress was Hispanic, and there was like 0 Hispanic representation on The Walking Dead at the time. And so I remember there was a whole reviewer who talked about that. And we brought that first season as a short to like the Gen Con Film Festival and had a lot of excitement from that. So we decided to tackle the second season. We filmed the first 3.5 episodes of the second season, and then one of our main cast members unexpectly passed away, and there was a bunch of
Weird pieces of things that
Behind
went
the
that we
scenes
just kind of
drama.
dropped it. Yeah.
So it kind of fell apart after that.
But it was picking up steam because Blip TV, which was a thing back then, which was an internet web series thing, we got picked up on there, and we were on the front page of that, and that really like made us feel good about our projects, and we were going to keep doing it. And then a lot of bad things kind of fell.
Yeah, and that's got to be, I mean, that's heavy. I mean, obviously, something like that, I mean, that changes the course of everything. I mean, you're dealing with a lot there. I mean, not just from obviously, I think the filming and everything comes, is definitely takes a back seat at that point for everything. I do want to say, though, like, personally, Exile to me, I've known you guys now. I mean, we've known you guys for years, but Exile was the first thing that I had gotten to see your guys' work, and I know I was just blown away. I loved it. I mean, it was just so. I mean, I'm with everybody else that was giving such a high praise to it because.
Thank you. That's awesome. Yeah, it's the second arc specifically. I really think it's better than, like, I go back and watch it. It's like, oh, this is better than I watch everything I do with a hugely critical eye, and I'm like, no, this isn't good. I need to hear people say it's good. It's good, right? It's good. Yeah. So that, but yeah, I think it's better than I think most things that came out around the same time that were of that caliber.
Well, one of the things I remember really admiring in the first portion of it was because the zombie craze was so hitting, and people were really finding again why zombies could work so metaphorically and why they worked as such like a great terror tactic is. But one of the things I remember really loving in that first arc is that you did those like essentially like interviews of like people reacting to it, but it felt so genuine. And I felt like that was the thing. A lot of the zombie work that was coming out at the time really lacked the human element of saying like, no, but this is how it actually feels. If you're in a theater and someone's asking you, how are you coping with what's happening right now? And I remember that feeling very genuine and very chilling because of how realistic it felt. Almost
accidentally, since our first movie, it has become the theme of almost everything we make, except the comedy things that we make, which is another story. But it's horror or thriller with human heart, and really, really like it's kind of like suck the audience in with the horror, and then surprise them with the humanity of it.
It's funny that it has become that, because I am not a horror guy at all. I'm always so resistant to adding horror elements into our projects, and Jesse has to talk me into it, but I always end up enjoying it anyway.
I think it also kind of gives you more of a gut punch when you do that genre flip, because you're really coming in with a critical horror eye, and then it takes you by surprise that there's a human emotion or human element behind it. And I think that was always key to any time we write something, at least if we were going to do horror, is it's not going to just ever be just horror.
Right. Well, speaking of horror, I do have to ask. Lauren, one time when we were at a convention, actually got to ask Wes Craven this question.
It's the greatest moment of my life, if I'm being 100% honest.
And
Wait, hold up. Marrying you, of course.
Oh, no. Thank you. You know what?
But like Wes, it was Wes Craven. Can I tell you, that was a foregone conclusion. Like, I knew that was going to happen. I didn't know I was going to get to talk to Wes Craven.
Was it an amazing Lauren story of you bursting through the door and being like, now talk to me?
You should see her at a convention.
I know this already. I do. This is why I said it. I know she did. Tell me you did. You burst in. You weren't even in line.
Craven wasn't that. No.
Okay.
Carpenter. John Carpenter. That's how she was.
Okay.
Why do you have to do this every time we talk about Carpenter?
We went to meet John Carpenter. I am over the moon excited. I'm ready to go, right? And Lauren...
Don't ruin it, Lauren. Don't ruin it, Lauren. Lauren, don't ruin it.
She just, she's got this amazing personality, and Lauren's excitement, and she just takes over. And her and him just start talking about, because you were teaching a film class at the time, and they just went off, and I'm just standing there.
You fade into the background.
Yes.
I can't help my excitement, and I can't help my excitement when we talk about film. And it was John Carpenter. Like, you can't. You know what? We'll talk about this later.
But she did have this great question with Wes Craven, which was, and I want to pose it to you guys. Out of all the things you've filmed, and I know we haven't gotten too much into Shiver yet, but if you want to use Shiver here as well, what is your favorite scene you guys ever directed, and why?
Actually, I mean, and Lauren was there for it. I think you knew. Yeah. There's a very poignant moment at the end. And in the script, it's about, the most recent we're filming, Shiver, which we'll talk about.
Yeah, where are you?
But there's a very poignant moment at the end, and it's written with many different moments and cues for the actor, and highly, deeply emotional, and kind of a hard scene to pull off, and we did it all in one take. It was very easy to do, but it was all in the actor. and how he did it. And I just think it was beautiful. And like, it was a moment as soon as I yelled cut, like I remember I actually looked over at Lauren, because I don't know if these listeners know this, but Ryan and Lauren were actually part of helping us make this. You did say this at the beginning.
Yes,
I looked over and I see Lauren crying, and I have tears in my eyes. And I think it's the first time while filming something that was mine where I was genuinely moved before I edited it.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So the moment of it was all worth it, like this is the moment that I created all this for, tends to be at the premiere of different projects for me. So when I am in the premiere and I get to see people responding, both in the ways that we intend them to, and then there are always surprises as well. There are always moments that mean something to somebody because of their own personal journey that they've been on. There is a kind of shared storytelling with filming. It is a collaborative process among the filmmakers, but it's also a kind of contract between you as the filmmakers and the audience watching it, where you are giving something from your own experience, and the person watching it is giving something from their own life. And sometimes those will meet up in unexpected ways, and people will have reactions to what you've made that you didn't think of while you were filming. But you can see that somewhere in your shared experiences, you've managed to connect with that person in an unexpected and exciting way. Those are the moments that I love most.
Yeah, absolutely. Like that segues into into this conclusion of our college story, which is really exciting because we've been waiting for this moment. Is our premiere for that movie was at Roxy, and just
in Northampton, Pennsylvania.
Thank you. Yeah,
and it was like I don't even know how we pulled it off or how this even happened, but we had the morning call there. We had some East newspaper. They were there. The whole place was packed to the room. It was a packed house.
It was the Easton Express.
Easton Express. I just remember it felt like
the premier newspaper in Easton.
And we went over the top. We realized we're nobodies. We went over the top. We pulled up in limos, and you imagine the people driving by what's going on there? And it's just us coming out of the limos, and everybody was taking pictures of us. But he's absolutely right. We set up
400 people in the theater.
Yeah, we set up this scenario, this moment that I'll never forget. That made me actually probably want to keep doing this for the rest of my life, which is we were in a packed house. Everybody was there supporting us, and everybody was so involved with this movie. Every single person in that theater, packed, laughing, jumping, screaming. It was
reacting.
Yeah, reacting. And he's absolutely right. That moment specifically, I think is definitely on the top of my list.
Just knowing that you've connected with people on a personal level.
Yeah, I mean, I can only imagine that feeling, being in a theater and having it all come together like that.
Well, soon you won't have to imagine it, Ryan.
Also, where was our invite on that?
That's a good... Wait, no, we didn't know you then.
Okay.
We didn't know you.
2002, I think.
This is before.
Okay.
This is before.
We met them in 2003.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Time is...
It's wibbly wobbly timely.
Especially after these last 3 years.
But I love how you describe the electricity of that. I think so many times, obviously we have a film podcast. We're very into movies. We go and watch it in the theater because we love that live experience. But that added layer of, this is a thing I was a part of, and now I'm getting to see that reaction. Or, how you talk about the idea of this moment kind of being the thing that kind of propelled you forward, that you had this thing that happened that made you want to keep creating. So I'll ask, what is your advice you would give to someone who's an independent filmmaker, writer, composer? What's your kind of key advice you would give them?
Drop out of college.
It's going to be, I think it's going to be the thing we keep saying, which is it's just never do it because you want to be successful. Never do it because you want to make money. Do it because you love the art. I think that's what's driven me, and that's what's never stopped me. I've fully concluded that for the rest of my life, I'm okay making movies, and I'm okay with nobody seeing it. But the fact that I get to keep telling stories and people keep wanting to watch it, that just keeps me going forward.
That's the opposite of nobody seeing it.
Well, that's true.
I mean, there's the motivation.
But I think that's my motivation. But then people do come and watch it, so that does make me.
I think what you're trying to say is that you're not doing it to reach wide critical acclaim that's going to be an internationally successful film or even a nationally successful film. But if you're able to connect with the few hundred people who have some connection to you or someone and you're able to reach them with it, that makes it worth it.
Absolutely.
I think that's great advice, because I think that's something that people miss, and especially as we get older. We box ourselves in with these assumptions of, well, this is supposed to be this, and if it doesn't get to there, then it's not worth the time. And I think that's missing the point of what's rewarding to us emotionally, especially as we get older. On a personal level, this podcast, I don't know how many people listen to it, completely, but
way to get that number. You can get that number.
But no, there is.
Okay. I'll help you.
But I guess I love what you're saying there, because I think that is something for any filmmakers to just understand that, the passion is far more important, what it does for you emotionally and more rewarding than anything else. And I think that's a really great piece of advice to give somebody.
You don't want to be making a movie because you think somebody else will like it. You make the movie that you want to watch, and by you investing yourself into it, you're going to connect with other people. Like, if you're trying to make a movie to meet somebody else's expectations, you're not gonna enjoy the process. You're not gonna make your best work. But if you make the movie that you want to see, I guarantee you there are people out there who will connect to it.
But there's a lot of sacrifice that obviously goes into this. You both have families, and you have full-time jobs, like you said, and just your own personal day-to-day needs and wants and everything. How do you guys find a way to balance that? Is it a struggle? Have you found a way to kind of balance all of that?
Communication. That's communication. That's how I'm still with my wife. Yes. No, that is really like as far in advance as you can communicate everything that goes with the project, that goes with, what I mean? I just think that's key to completing any project.
In your most recent film, I mean, you guys have both had kids on the set, which was really cool. Do you like bringing them into, as much as you can, into the projects that you're working on?
I am a big believer in maintaining high expectations for kids and letting them meet those expectations. I think that there are a lot of people who have practically no expectations for kids. They don't really see them as fully fledged people until they're grown up, whatever that means, some arbitrary number. In my experience, if you give a child of almost any age some amount of responsibility and some amount of freedom, like, they're looking to succeed. They're looking to do their best. So I love bringing kids in on projects. I also work sometimes with a youth theater in the area, and I think that has definitely made me much more likely to want kids working on my projects with me, because I've had so many good experiences with it in the past. So yeah, we both brought our kids along to this film set, and I think it all went well.
Yeah, I think a big way that I like leading by example, I think, is kind of how I look at it. Like, when I was a runner, that kind of fell off. Like you just saw, my kids wanted to run. You know what I mean? Not that I want to push or tell them what to do, but you can definitely see that, like, hey, come on the set. They see their father is trying to achieve something. And then suddenly you're like, I want to make movies. Not that it's forcing them to do anything, but it's just, I think it's great to, like, show them that there's more than just a career. You know what I mean? Right. You can just do something you want to do for fun. You know what I mean? And you can go for a run. You can run a marathon. You can make a movie. You know what I mean? And maybe you can make something of it sometime, part of your career,
So there certainly are some sacrifices that you make, but I think that our personal lives, at least with our families, have, if anything, added to our ability to tell stories, because they've given us a richer experience a richer set of experiences to draw from and to connect with people on.
Andrew, you brought up earlier, as we were talking about filmmaking, the idea of telling the story that you want to tell, and it not being, what you think people want to hear, what you think necessarily will be popular. It's about kind of the things that you want to express. So we were kind of curious in preparing for this about talking to you about your own personal film histories and the stories that you like. Jesse, you mentioned earlier that E.T. was such an important influence to you becoming a filmmaker. So is there a genre of film that, just for your own personal, not necessarily for creating, but wanting to view, that you kind of tend towards?
For myself, a good coming-of-age story can't really be beat. I mean, my top 5 favorite movies will vary from year to year, even day to day. But somewhere in those top 5 slots since they have come out have been Almost Famous, Big Fish, and Moulin Rouge, which are all very emotional coming-of-age stories. So they definitely really connect with me.
Interesting.
I also am a sucker for science fiction and fantasy. Those are my favorite things that if I'm going to turn on a movie that I don't know of, and there are like 5 different genres, but I don't know any of them, I'll probably put on the sci-fi fantasy one.
So maybe not a genre, but if it makes me cry, I'm sold. Like, that is actually just my darkest, deepest secret.
That's actually why he liked having children. When his son was born, he cried. And then when his daughter was born, nothing, which is why he doesn't have a 3rd child.
Anyway, it's like I'm done with this genre. But it's like
the birth genre is just out for you at this point.
Yeah, I mean, now I'm gonna name everything in the same.
The crying genre. We got it.
Yeah. Love Actually.
Right.
Richard Curtis movies.
About Time.
Yeah. Oh my goodness.
Oh,
About
I know
Time.
that makes you cry.
That's the one. That's the one. But I know, and as long as it's not being emotionally manipulative, which I don't think any of those movies are. Almost Famous, it gets me. Like, it does. It's so good. A lot of Cameron Crowe's movies are literally that. But I think with doing it from a very genuine place, if a movie can do that, that's the genre I want. If they can make me cry from a very genuine place without being sappy or fake. Yeah. But yeah, go ahead.
No,
I was going to say, but the genre I've been and you're going to cut this. The genre I've been actually leaning toward most is like the whole like Mike Flanagan thing, where it's just like the horror, like character driven, which ironically is what I'm going for, which I've always been, but that's kind of what I've been like. That is what I look for when I see a movie or a TV show like that. I was like, I'm in. That's awesome.
Well, I can imagine then when you see a voice like that of Flanagan's work and you feel like that's been the voice that you has to be
that's
such
me.
a great connection.
Super exciting.
Cool.
Yeah. I was like, somebody else does it. That's awesome. Yeah.
I think another one that Jesse and I both really connect with is the kind of non-traditional structure of Damon Lindelof, where you're taking, a crying story, as Jesse would say, and you're adding elements to it that are perhaps supernatural in some way, or just separated from the traditional storytelling structure and kind of pulled out to give you a different perspective on these otherwise, mundane events. I'm thinking of stuff like Leftovers or his Watchmen series. That's something that definitely has had a big impact on
TV shows.
us.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jesse, then I'm going to pitch this back to you. Then, do you have an all-time favorite film? I mean, I'm putting you on the spot. You got to give us one. We're not going to lock you in.
It's going to be hard.
We're not going to lock
I
you
can't
in
believe
forever
you did this to me,
before
Ryan.
this moment.
This is really hard. And I get to do it first. That's what's the most important part. Almost
I
Famous.
already did mine.
Did he? He did, didn't he? Yeah.
I was like, you already gave 3 great
I'm
ones.
not done with him. I've got another question for him to pivot.
I mean,
It feels such like a threatening space at which you're approaching this really lovely question. You will give us your favorite film and you'll do it now.
Honestly, it's the best way to approach this and get an
Because
answer.
I've been dealing with Lauren for years who refused to give a favorite film of all time.
wait a second. No,
Yo.
we have to stop the podcast. What? Lauren, you have a movie podcast.
So I could no
All
sooner.
of the films are her favorite films.
Yes. I could no sooner pick a favorite star in the heavens than I could pick a favorite film. I just quoted A Knight's Tale. Boom.
Nice.
Fantastic.
That's amazing.
But
Knight's Tale. That's actually, I think we just found out on our last. But Us was your favorite. Oh no, that was your favorite horror film of all time.
Stop it, please. The Morning Call like grossly misquoted me by saying that was my favorite. It was like one of my. Anyways, I have a very hard time. And I feel always compelled to ask people that question because I feel like it says a lot, and I don't know what it says about me that I cannot answer it because it changes so often. I think I have one film that I'm pretty sure it is, and I try it on every once in a while, and I'm like, that's my favorite film.
Reveal
Psycho.
the film. Psycho. Okay. Nice.
Yeah.
That's a good choice.
Our niece was like 7 and asked me one time, she was like, Auntie Lauren, what's your favorite movie? And I was like, Psycho. And then I went, I don't know if I was supposed to say that. I think I was supposed to say like Moana.
Moana, yeah. It definitely a beautifully shot movie. Everything about that movie. We could talk about that. We can make the rest of the podcast about
that.
Psycho.
No, you're not getting out of the question though. What's your favorite movie?
Nice. Almost Famous. Yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, Almost Famous. You had no idea. Yeah.
Well, no, I'm not shocked.
Okay.
Yeah,
I mean, I have Almost Famous, Moulin Rouge. I mean, I'm saying it like the audience knows, but I know you guys know Almost Famous, Moulin Rouge.
And now the audience knows. No, I mean, Almost Famous is, I mean, yeah, I'm not shocked for you. I mean, because, that film speaks probably volumes to you.
Yeah, my top, we go Almost Famous, Moulin Rouge, and then we'd have a gap, like everybody's supposed to, of 5 Marvel films. and then Love Actually.
Content.
Favorite Marvel film then?
Oh my goodness, I should know that right away. I really think
there's 55 of them. You don't have to know that.
Yeah, I was gonna say that new Spider-Man movie was fantastic,
Yes.
and that got me in the feels. But so did Endgame. You know, if I'm making the qualification, what got me in the feels the most?
Then right now that I'm on your left.
Yeah, I think Spider-Man did. I think that got me. Yeah, it was a great movie all around.
Thor Ragnarok.
Yeah,
Nice. Heck yeah.
Fantastic. Fantastic. But I am going to also pitch another question to you because you gave us 3 of your top favorites.
Sure.
But you also said how much you love sci-fi. None of them were sci-fi. So I'm going to ask you, can you give a top sci-fi film?
Yes.
Okay.
No.
He's like, but I refuse.
Minority Report.
I do love Minority Report. I think actually my top sci-fi... I think actually my top sci-fi film is District 9.
Yeah. Right on.
I love District 9. It's an amazing film, but more importantly than how the film holds up, I think it is actually one of the best single performances by any actor in cinema. The
transformation of his evolution of his character was...
Yeah, the evolution of the character from this sort of fussy middle manager that you just despise to this heartbreaking, selfless.
You almost have no idea.
Hero.
Yeah, you have no idea that he's going to be the lead. I remember watching it, not really seeing trailers for it, and you're just like, oh, this bureaucracy or whatever, and then he throws you for a loop. Such a good actor, such a good performance.
Yep.
Yeah. It's great. I like all of those picks. Also, Moulin Rouge, I would say, is in my top 3 as well, since you both had talked about it.
Moulin Rouge and Almost Famous is just always right in that line of, I'm not sure. Like, yeah.
See, it is hard, guys.
I don't know. I've had a solid favorite for,
Wait, did you say it and I wasn't listening? Did
No,
you say
I
it?
didn't.
It's only fair since we all did it.
We did a whole episode of mine.
Oh, did you? Oh,
it's
then just
7.
cut.
7 is my all-time favorite
that
film.
makes sense.
Although I will say Shape of Water is moving in real...
That's great.
Yeah.
Moulin Rouge, Jesse's oldest son is named Christian, and it has nothing to do with Jesse's religious faith. So.
Aren't you glad Andrew's here with you to blow up your spot?
Thanks.
Again, please don't tell Jesse's parents.
But we would love some more listeners to the podcast.
You have such a strong bond and partnership. We've gotten to hear so much about your film history together, the bitter rivalry that started this film history over Teddy Ruxpin. Can you tell us a little bit about your latest project that you've been working on together?
Exciting.
Sure. All right. So, after Exile fell apart, we had a bit of a creative
Lol.
sabbatical.
We still did things here or there. We did comedy.
Yeah, we did a few things, but it had been a long
haunted
time.
houses, most important of all.
Good haunted house is always good.
But there are two. We have worked with Marvin Day, who does our special effects makeup and writes with us and does other things over the years, and we started to do some stuff with our friend Jeff Harvey. And Jeff is much younger than the rest of us, like 30 years younger than the rest of us. And so he kind of kept pushing us to start creating again. And so we decided to, the four of us started working together, and we decided we wanted to make a horror anthology. So last autumn, that would be autumn 2001, right?
Yeah.
Am I saying that right?
Wait, 2001?
21, yeah.
What's wrong with you, Andrew?
Andrew has a time machine. I knew it.
Timey-wimey.
Last autumn 2021.
Honestly, these last 2 years, again. I
Yeah,
mean, just time
could have been
is
20
just
years.
right.
Joke.
Could have been 1 year.
We got together and we worked on the first one of these shorts, one that Jeff wrote and directed. And then we started to come up with the rest of the ideas. So Jesse did the first pass at the script. Jesse's story structure is very, like, if you know story structure, Jesse tends towards the, like, Kishi Tenketsu, Eastern type structure, which is awesome, and I love.
Nerd alert. I'm sorry. Could cut that out.
Well,
Oh no, I'm keeping that in.
all right, so you have structures like the 3-act structure, the hero's journey, or the, like, save the cat structure that you see all the time. Jesse's much more has this 4-part, like, beginning, progression, twist, conclusion, which I really liked about the script. So I then did a second pass on it, and we kind of went back and forth a few times from there until we had something we were really excited about. And then we started putting the team together for our production.
And that's where Ryan and Lauren come in. And actually, and not to, like, pat you guys in the back or to change anything, but I think that you and Jeff Harvey were the backbone of this project, the two of you guys. You guys actually were. Like, we are the minds behind the story, and I guess I don't want to say we're the camera and the director and all that stuff, but you guys were the ones that really, that your energy and all the help you guys did pushing us forward and not letting us ever fall back. You guys were the backbone of this project.
They were the blood of the project.
Yeah.
The backbone does not give us energy.
Yeah, that's true.
Keeps you up, though, right? Like,
Yeah. Like, we're crediting you as costume design, but you absolutely did so much more. I'm talking about Lauren. So much more than costume design. Like, you
Lauren
guys
was our
were,
production designer in general. She helped designing with a bunch of the set pieces.
and I think finding you two, kind of changing your look, finding you two really gave us a vision for our future. Like, and I think
You were some of the earliest people that we talked about bringing on. You know, we had not worked with you guys creatively before, or at least I had not. I don't think you have, Jesse.
no.
But we knew that both of you had a passion for film and a creative eye or mind or whatever it is that you have that's creative. And
Backbone.
yes, a creative backbone.
now our audience knows why we invited you guys on here.
Right? Someone's going to be like, wait a second.
No,
Just wanted a love fest.
And we also knew, I also suspected that Ryan would be better at keeping things organized than either Jesse or myself.
While not complaining, doing their job, which is a key part to what your job was, because there's so many, we could never find somebody to be a line producer the way we found. I know, like, we're just doing a love fest here, but yeah.
Yeah, and you guys are being incredibly, incredibly kind, but
and
too
way
kind.
over generous.
Yeah.
I mean, we're very grateful for it. We appreciate it, but honestly, it was all our honor. Like, we both talked about it. I mean, the fact that you guys trusted us to come on and be part of it, it was incredibly rewarding from our end, and we just loved, you know, like, I wasn't joking earlier when I talked about, you know, what Exile and seeing it, and you know, being so just admiring your guys' work. So to be part of that, even in any small bit, you know, and if that's organizational skill, I know I'm happy to have brought that, but honestly, we are nothing. You guys are, I mean, that project was all because of you two, and everybody on that set was because you guys just created something that was everybody felt a passion for.
It was hard not to get excited by it. It was so well written. It was so beautifully shot. Like, just being in that environment. I mean, we talked about it on that Monday once shooting was over after that Sunday shoot, and we were both just like, oh, we're kind of bummed out, like, because it was so much fun, and it was the atmosphere and the work that you created that allowed that energy. And obviously, so, you know, and we've talked about this on the show previously, and we've, you know, you guys have done a wonderful job praising us, which was really nice. But can you tell our audience anything about the film that would be spoiler free? Because we don't want you certainly giving away too much about the film. But if you were going to describe what Shiver is, how would you do that?
Shiver is a metaphor for addiction.
There it is.
That was a power sentence right there.
Like, that kind of spoils it in a way, which I'm fine with, because like the story structure lays out that you're not sure, obviously, what it's about, and as it goes, you start realizing that it's a horror movie about the fear of withdrawal. And it presents itself sort of like a time travel piece, where pieces of his, well, you find this out while it goes. I'm just fully spoiling this, but I'm okay.
Go for it, Jeff.
Yeah, I'm okay with that. I think it's just,
We
I
live
think
in
it's
a
so well.
spoiler world.
Yeah, I think
Well,
knowing,
that's for sure.
I think knowing about it isn't going to ruin the experience of watching it. It is just well acted, well everything. It's just giving these pieces away doesn't ruin anything.
It doesn't rely on twists in the story for the
Absolutely.
story to work.
Yeah. The idea sort of came from Matthew Perry. That's where the idea is. And some personal experiences that Andrew and I have had. But the idea of that Matthew Perry had about 3 years of friends where he completely forgot about it. He doesn't remember at all. The idea that you can have a gap in your memory from taking drugs. So it presents itself by little segments of him popping a pill and presenting this pill as some magical science fiction device that's popping him through time. And then there's horror elements to it, which I guess we'll kind of save that as the non-spoiler part of it.
So the story also explores our main character, Xander's relationships that he has and how those are affected by what he's experiencing, by the addiction that he's going through and his fear of withdrawal. And it has, I think, some interesting perspectives on how those can affect your interpersonal relationships.
Yeah, all through the eye of science fiction and horror. Not the audience should not, and probably will not be aware of it until closer to the end that it's about him having a substance abuse problem.
Can you guys, talking about Xander, can you guys talk about your cast a little bit? Them as actors, and then talk about them a little bit about how you went about casting them? Is that
Immediately going to jump in is probably the best cast we've ever had.
That's awesome.
It's absolutely.
Yeah, I mean, so the magic of, like, what we thought was Craigslist. We're like, oh, Craigslist, and then we kind of just get, oh, they're pretty good actors. Not to put anybody down here, but we discovered was
Jesse's talking about Craigslist 10 years ago.
10 years ago, yes.
We used that as our casting call for Exile.
Yes, but
I contacted a friend of mine who does acting work up in New York, Ariel Hope, and she let me know what the current new hotness in casting is, which is backstage.com.
Okay.
And so we put out a casting call.
and it's just like the whole like it was kind of the beginning of like all the pieces of like people being excited for a project they're not aware of and they're not getting paid for it. Like all these things just started coming together right at that point, and we're just like we got all these people auditioning, and we're just like they don't even know us. Like we have like some IMDb credits, but like
right.
like what like why? But like just the turnout, and then we got 3 amazing actors from it.
Well, we got 2 amazing actors from it.
That's true. We won't say who the one is that wasn't amazing.
Brian, we did not get from that.
That's fair.
Okay. Oh yeah. Can you guys actually?
My joke was funnier. You ruined the joke.
But that's actually. Are you guys? If you guys feel comfortable, are you able to talk about? Because you guys did have to have a big pivot, almost a week or 2 out from filming, right, with your cast.
Yes, I will talk about that, but I also want to talk a little bit about Wes and Madison, who were the actors that we met through Backstage. They both auditioned over Zoom in the audition process that we had, and both knocked it out of the park right from the beginning for both of them. We felt really good about them, and we're excited and going, oh, I hope they'll come and do the callback. And
yeah,
they did.
I've never just because we were so out of it for a couple of years doing this stuff, we were fully prepared for none of it. For they're so good, and they were sort of fully prepared for them to not show up on the set, and they just kept showing up, and they kept getting more excited, and it was just I just loved that there are actors out there just willing to do things for art. Just like us. It just felt like a connection, just like you guys. It's just all of us felt very connected. I think it was the first time I felt that on a set. Just every single person on the set.
So the original script called for Xander's best friend as a character in it. The character was male in the original script, but after we'd done auditions, we didn't feel like any of the male actors we had auditioned quite felt right for the part, but one of the women who we'd auditioned seemed like she could really do it. So we offered her the role and rewrote the part a little bit to have it be, Xander's best friend, but from a woman's perspective. And then 10 days before shooting, 2 weeks, something like that, she actually got a callback to go and do a Netflix show. So we were sad to let her go, but excited for her opportunity.
Of course.
And then, of course, quite panicked for her reaction. But someone who Jesse and I went to college with before we dropped out of college, Brian Wendt, is someone who I'd worked with a few times in the local theater here. And I thought that he might be perfect for the role, so I messaged him, and he said he could do it, so we changed the script back again.
Perfect.
He was... Originally, the character was Xander's best friend since Brian went to college with us. He's very, very old like we are.
So we changed it to brother. Yeah, we changed it.
So we changed it to Xander's older brother, but I think it worked out well in the end.
There was a really good rapport between your 3 main cast, I have to say, and obviously you guys had cast it well since one of your actors went on to do a Netflix show, but I think the 3 how it ended up working out seemed to really pay off because
I think so, yeah.
The 3 of them seemed to really bond and work really well together.
They had fantastic chemistry.
Yeah.
They were all very easy to work with. And, I think they did an awesome job, and I definitely hope we will get to work with each of them again down the road.
So something that you teased a little earlier in the episode is that this is part of an anthology. Can you tell us a little bit about this as far as where this goes next? What's the next component of the story, or your kind of overall concept of how you plan on packaging these films?
So our 4 producers, including Andrew and myself, Marvin and Jeff, we decided we're going to start making short films. Again, 5 or 6 years after we stopped making them, 10. And then I think, long story short, we realized that there could be potential with connecting all of them together. So the idea was that we each have a unique vision for a short story. Jeff made one, I made one, Andrew's writing one, and then our other producer is writing the main.
Our 4th producer, Marvin, is writing a longer piece that will connect the other 3 together narratively and creatively.
Yes, so that's how we got to that. So and we started trying to write each one of our shorts to connect to the bigger piece, but then we realized there's too many restrictions, and let's make the big like the movie connect to our three. So we each are going to do a completely unique idea for our shorts that almost doesn't connect, maybe some actors, to in almost any way, seemingly in any way, but we're going to make it work with the big movie in the end that connects all three.
The narrative through line of Marvin's.
Yes.
So what is your guys' ultimate goal, for Shiver and or the anthology? Do you guys, are you guys kind of hoping to put it in festivals, or what is, the hope for it from here?
Yes to all.
Okay.
So we are planning to submit Shiver as a solo short to some festivals, but we will likely also submit the whole project as an anthology once all 4 parts are done.
That'd be awesome. Very cool.
Now, we also know that this is, because this is part of the anthology, there's obviously like a long-term project for this, but once you have finished the post-production phase for Shiver, how are you hoping to show it? Is it because you're going to be showing at festivals? Is it something that can only be seen at festivals? Do you have a plan for how people can view this once it's complete?
We will be having a local premiere here in Pennsylvania's Lehigh Valley. So if you are lucky enough to live in eastern Pennsylvania, we will let the Toccis know when it's coming up, and maybe they can give you all some warning on this beautiful podcast.
Yeah, we're not sure about internet presence yet. Like I know we have a lot of music that we're putting in it. That we might, we're trying to get, the rights to. So I think that might be the thing that might slow us down with the internet. But it's easier to get the rights to something that goes into film festivals than it is to go on YouTube. That's a whole nother.
Yes, we're licensing music from some very talented artists, and getting mechanical rights from Elton John.
Right.
Can't use his actual song.
Too bad Ellen John's not a friend of the podcast, so we can make this so much easier.
And I could use his piano to practice on.
Yeah.
Anyway.
So is that like life dream goal would be to be able to play on Elton John's piano?
Oh, yes.
Yeah, we would love to put it online at some point.
Yeah.
But our plan right now is film festivals, and then we'll see where it goes from there.
Yeah, eventually it will be online in some way, but we might have to re-finagle the music with new licenses when that happens. So initially we're going to have the local premiere, and then we'll have a series of festivals that we submit to.
And we'll definitely keep everybody up to date on that.
100%.
Yeah. And just in case anybody is interested, is Exile out there anywhere? If anybody's listening,
It is. It's hard to find it in the correct order, I think.
Okay.
Am I correct by saying that? It's just kind of scattered on YouTube pages. Like we used to be on Blip TV in the correct order, and now Blip TV, I believe, is no longer existing. Am I right?
That's true. It can all be found on YouTube. Do you guys do liner notes in your podcast?
Yes, we do.
Okay, I'll get you some links for your liner note.
Okay, so your production company you guys have now is JARDEN Films. Can we ask what is next then for JARDEN Films? Just to finish out the anthology? Like, do you guys already know your next project?
I think because we have such a solid team now, and we keep this team together, our plan is to continue doing, and I keep using the word free, but it is keep doing this with no budget.
Right.
But ideally, we keep making these short films, and we start finding places that can fund us and making it better, I think, by showing what we're capable of doing. That is, I think, our full game plan, financially speaking and artistically speaking. But I know our next one that we are actually doing is going to be Andrew's piece that he is writing.
Or possibly a separate short that's not part of the anthology that Jeff is doing.
That is true.
Okay. So we'll be excited to see what happens.
Andrew, can I ask for a little bit of a tease about what your project is about?
Sure. It is about someone going through a difficult post-relationship time period in his life and struggling with his own mortality in the face of... No, that's almost famous. But yes, so that's what that is about. And it will have, a horror supernatural element, but that's more Jesse's purview.
Right on.
Yeah, we're kind of following the same.
Yeah, I'm gonna write my short as a just purely dramatic piece, and then Jesse's gonna insert a bunch of jump scares.
Yeah, we're kind of following the same format, I think, because it works so well. Is that I write the first draft with Andrew and I putting together, and then he goes in and pieces it together, make it make sense.
Extremely excited to when that script comes out. I'm very excited for it.
Yes.
I'm sure it's going to be very powerful, and amazing.
Okay, so at the beginning of the show, we put you through your paces with one of our typical segments, which is called Tossi's Takes. And Andrew stole yours, but you did great. Jesse, you came up with an idea. So we're going to put you through some of our other traditional segments we have on the podcast.
Excellent.
This first one is a segment that I make very well known that I hate because I hate the idea of this, but we're going to throw it to you.
Is it what is Lauren's favorite movie?
I know. No, and I can't believe you blew up my spot on this episode. If you could remake any movie, like you get to have creative control over it, what movie would you remake? And who would you cast in it if you know that too?
Oh, I immediately know the answer to this.
What is it?
I remember, and it has a little story to it. Not really a good story, but I remember going to my one of my best friends, actually the cinematographer for our first movie that we did. And I remember going to watch the third Jurassic Park movie. Now, I know the second one wasn't known to be the best, but it still had the magic of Spielberg in it, and it still felt like I remember going, and it was the first time I felt genuinely disappointed with a movie. It would be Jurassic Park 3.
Was it when the raptor said Alan?
Yes.
Or
Yeah, I was so disappointed. But that wasn't the thing that sold me on it. There's many pieces that were. And I would probably, you said recast? Was that the question?
If you did, you don't have to. Yeah,
you don't have to though.
I mean, I bring the full cast back. That was always the problem with the sequels of the Jurassic Park movies, is not having the full cast back. To me, at least, like they always brought them back in pieces here or there.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you feel that the newest one's gonna bring it all?
They
to
are
an
bringing.
end?
Yeah. Well, we'll see.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll see. A little too much CG for me, but we'll see.
Andrew?
And I would do a 9th version of Death at a Funeral.
Amazing.
The only correct answer.
So, in all seriousness, there are two films that I think would make amazing theater pieces, which, to the best of my knowledge, have never been performed that way, which are Death at a Funeral and About Time. I think both of those really have a narrative structure that would work fantastically in live theater, and I would love to put on live theater productions of either of those shows.
I like it. I like the switch to making it a theater production.
And not just a redo and move format. I like that.
I really want to see Andrew's production of About Time.
Yeah.
I feel like you do something amazing with the trick of him jumping in, or those really beautiful but heartbreaking moments with the dad. Oh, I feel like you do something pretty
really
remarkable with that.
Cool opportunities.
And you guys saw Death at a Funeral, or any one of the two?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like that is just made for theater.
I didn't watch
Yeah.
Is that the show? No, I'm thinking Four Weddings and Funerals.
Yeah,
Sorry. Yeah.
Death at a Funeral had the original English version, and then there was one with Chris Rock, I believe. And there's also a Bollywood version, and I think there might be a fourth version. I don't think I've seen the fourth one, but I did see the Bollywood one and both of the English ones, and I actually enjoyed all three of them.
Nice. I like it. I like the change of, over to the theater. So then the other thing that everybody always hates is, a dreaded sequel to a movie that you love. Can you guys give a sequel to a movie that does not already have a sequel? Or, I'll let you guys off if you want to add a third or fourth film to some franchise.
I actually, not ironically, want a sequel to Serenity.
Oh.
Okay.
Exactly.
Oh, that was such a good answer, Andrew. I don't know if I have one. Romeo.
Not one that's better than Andrew's.
Yeah, definitely Romeo and Juliet.
But they're zombies.
I honestly don't know if I have one.
For some reason, when you
if
first
it doesn't-
started saying that, I thought you were going to say Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion.
No. Yes, it's good.
Okay, but Romeo and Michelle's high school reunion, but told from Ellen Cummings' perspective the entire time. It's Ellen Cumming.
right, that's right.
Yeah, I mean,
I will give a cheap answer. A sequel to our first movie. We always made a joke about it because the first one was Perfection Across 23rd Street. We want to call it Perfection Across 24th Street. So, or many other joke titles that we've made, and we always came up with, because it was written in 24 hours by me, a whole 2-hour movie. So it was written very quickly. So like there's lots of very cheesy dialogue in it, and it would make for a very good sequel. For comedy's sake.
Well, this has been a really great interview, and we're kind of down to the last question, so I want to give you guys probably the most important question that I'm going to ask of the entire evening here. If you guys could cast Bill Hader and Ben Schwartz in one film, what would it be? Or if you could work with them on any project, what would it be?
It would be any project. I would say.
Okay, so it's a two-part. Okay, so it could be either one.
Yeah,
It's both. It's both. You have to work with both of them.
No, I know that, but
Okay, you know what? Let me rephrase that question again. If you could put Bill Hader and Ben Schwartz in any one of your projects and recast them in any one of your projects, what would it be?
yeah, definitely any one of. Oh, this is
They would replace Jesse and I in the Pippins.
yes.
Oh, Pippins! We didn't even get to talk
You
about.
don't
Pippins.
have to talk about the Pippins.
That's
just
just great
between the
comedy
four of us.
skits. Great comedy skits. Great.
So a lesson that I have seen play out many times is that some of the best dramatic performances you can get are from the best comic actors, because it's harder.
Absolutely.
It's harder to sell an audience on comedy. It's harder to make people laugh than it is to make them feel other emotions, because there's this natural skepticism of, you're not going to make me laugh, that many audiences have. So I think casting either of them in a dramatic role, such as Severance, you might be able to get a really cool, emotional, powerful performance.
Yeah. Did I not answer the question?
No. This is the most important
Is
question.
it always Ben Schwartz and Bill Hader? Did I join?
Every damn episode.
I listen to
I
your show.
believe you
I
can
think I've heard it.
recast them in every single film.
And to your credit, you have proven that.
We've gotten a little away from recasting movies over the last couple of episodes, so I haven't brought them up recently, but they're there. I promise you. Like, we missed on the Top Gun episode. Totally would remake Top Gun with both of them.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Ben Schwartz as Goose and Bill Hader as Maverick.
It's a better
100%.
movie.
It's
Thelma and Louise.
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, that's good. Lethal Weapon. That could be.
Oh,
Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Yes. See?
Right?
You can
Terms
put
of
Body
endearment.
comedies. Yeah.
you know, that's on-
Can't you see Bill Hader
Wings.
yelling for the pills, and Ben Schwartz is the kid? I can see it.
Yeah, I'm also picturing, Bill Hader, Ben Schwartz having that great, conversation in Shiver in the church.
Yes. You're absolutely right.
Totally.
Well, we can't thank you enough for doing this. I don't think we can adequately describe enough in this episode the depth of our admiration for the art that you do and the people that you are. We feel really honored to get to have this conversation.
Thank you.
If you are not currently following us on social media, please follow us at How Could You Podcast on Instagram, at How Could You Pod on Twitter. You can always email us suggestions and thoughts and comments and how much you enjoyed this episode to howcouldyoupodcast@gmail.com. And please stay tuned to our social media, because we will be providing all updates on all things Jarden Films.
And until next time, enjoy the Odyssey.